Today we're going to be working on translating words from English into a mathematical algebraic expression. I want you to know that your assignment for tonight is an IXL writing variable expressions. Below you will have your warm-up. This is just like the quiz and the lesson that we did last week. So the rule that you have is y equals 15 minus x. Copy down the table and make sure that you are showing your work by substitution, making sure you have parentheses around the substitution, and then making sure that when you are writing your final ordered pair that you are using the parentheses. Like I said, we're going to be working on translating from words into mathematical algebraic expressions, and this is getting us into word problems. Word problems can be very daunting or overwhelming for students just because there's so much that's involved in a word problem, but we're going to just slowly break it down into smaller steps. And by doing that, we're going to use what's called the 5D process. And this is leading us into being able to solve equations later on. I would like you to draw this table that you see over here on the right-hand side onto a piece of paper. And I want you to come up with words that mean addition. I want you to come up with as many words as possible that mean subtraction. Same thing for multiplication and division. Now, hopefully you find some of those words that you wrote down on this paper or on this image as well. See if you have any similarities. If there are any that you are missing, go ahead and add them to it. You could go ahead and ignore all of these over here on the right-hand side. We're not going to worry about those right now. I just want you to focus your attention on adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Typically, when we are looking at word problems, we are comparing two things to each other or even more. So one of the things that we typically compare is height, weight, your size, temperature, length of things, distance, and then looking at numbers like greater than and less than. So really focusing your attention on those words that we use to compare. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I want you to look at this phrase right here. 3 times a number. What do you think that looks like mathematically? Hopefully you wrote down 3n, or maybe you wrote down 3 parentheses n because parentheses means multiplication. Maybe you wrote down 3 times n, again using the dot symbol to represent multiplication. But as you move forward, I want you to start developing the habit of not necessarily using those parentheses because those are more for substitution, and not really using the dot either to show multiplication, just because this is more the format that you're going to see in algebra class. All right, let's try another one. 8 more than a number. What would that look like? How would you write that? More than a number. Now, the word than is critical because in English, it forces mathematically to switch the order. So what follows the word than, which is a number, actually has to come first, and then the 8 more comes after. So it's going to be n plus 8. So this gets written first, and then the 8 more comes after. Let's try another. Now the answer is n plus 8. N being the variable because we don't know what that number is. More being addition, and then 8. So going back real quickly, we had 8 more 1. 7 less than a number. So again, focus your attention on the word than. What is that going to do? It is going to force the number to be written first. The word less means subtract, and then you have the number 7. So again, we're taking the word than, looking at it and having it switch the order. So a number, and then less than 7. For decreased by a number. So I don't see the word than in this phrase, so I don't need to switch the order. So how would we write this mathematically? For decreased by a number. Because the word than was not in that phrase, I go for decreased, meaning subtraction, by a number, n, which I don't know. So that's why we're using a variable. Here's a little bit more complicated one. 8 less than 3 times a number. So again, I see that word than, so that's going to switch the order. So whatever comes after the word than is going to come first, and then whatever was before the word than is going to come last. So hopefully you recognized that the 3 times a number, that needs to come first. So 3 times a number, less, which means subtraction, and then the 8. So all of that becomes last. Let's try another one. 2 times a number, increased by 9. So again, I'm looking for that word than, and I'm not seeing it. Two times a number, well, that's going to look like 2 times a number, a variable I don't know. Increased, that means addition. So I'm going to add that by 9. Five less than 7 times a number. 5 less than 7 times a number. Well, hopefully you recognize the word than, and notice that what follows 7 times a number needs to be written first. So it's going to be 7 times a number. The word less, subtract, and then the number 5. So we're reversing. Three decreased by twice a number. 3 decreased by twice a number. Well, hopefully you didn't find the word than. So we're not going to change the order of this. So I'm simply going to just start with that number 3. Decreased by means subtraction. Twice means to multiply by 2. And I'm going to take that 2 and I'm going to multiply it by this number that I don't know. So it's going to be 3 minus 2 times n. Now this one is probably the most challenging of them all. There's a lot going on in this problem. Twice the sum of 5 times a number and 8. Now you're going to have to use parentheses with this one. Twice times 2. Sum means the answer to an addition problem. But I got to know what the addition problem is. Well, the addition problem comes from this 5 times a number, and that means addition. So here is that sum that we're looking for, which means that that's why I have to put those parentheses there. So really, this is going to say twice the sum of 5 times a number and 8.